Yeah, I hope that you hearing me. This is the future, all about cybersecurity. Talking about the hackers, I'm just trying to warn you. From the one and only legend, the cyber informer. Hey, thanks for joining the podcast. Time to get it hype. This I know you gonna like, giving you some insight. They try to hack in your database, homie, not today. Thinking they can escape with your data and without a trace. Oh yeah, this is the cyber informer. Hackers, you going down like, oh yeah. This is the cyber informer. Hackers, you going down, yeah.
It's time for Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect Central Coast podcast. This is episode 11, Eugene's Instagram hack. This episode is brought to you by Loyal IT Solutions. For all of your business IT needs, visit loyalit.com.au for more information on how we can help your business. And by the Gosford Erina Business Chamber. To have your business voice heard, become a member now. Visit us at gebc.com.au. And by the Australian Federal Government. Welcome to Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect Central Coast, the podcast. I'm Michael Trimblett, the Cyber Informer at cyber_informer on Twitter. This episode will again shine a spotlight on the old phrase, anyone's a target. Today we have Eugene Orr with us, who has spent a large part of his life traveling the world. In this time, Eugene has amassed over 5,000 followers to his Instagram account. Eugene is briefly back in Australia before heading overseas to Alaska to see the Northern Lights. He's a Manly Sea Eagles fan, but I won't hold that against him. Thank you for giving up your time today, Eugene, to tell us the story of your Instagram hack.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Before we get into the hack, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, I've known you since high school, so that dates back to the early 90s. Since then, you've been traveling the world. How many countries would you say you've been to?
Well, that's a tough question, but I would say about 110 countries, give or take, depending on what you would classify as an official country and what you might classify as a territory or a sovereign state. So about 110, give or take.
Okay, and I guess for reference, there are 195 countries, if I'm not mistaken, in the world. So that's a good portion of them.
I think, yes, it might be a couple more due to the birth of a couple of new countries in the last few years, namely South Sudan and East Timor. But it's 110 is not a bad percentage, but there are a lot more countries left to be discovered.
There certainly are. Are you planning on getting to all 195 in your time?
I would say that's a dream. It always is, but one has to be rather realistic with expectations and managing them. So whilst I will give it a good shake, if I don't see them all, it wouldn't be the biggest drama in the world, and I can be at peace that I've at least tried.
I'd love to be able to have that target of 195. Sadly, I think that I'd be probably happy to get the 20 in my life. But so you're very well traveled, and you know I've kept up to date with your Instagram account. You've had a lot of photos put on there from all of these 110 countries. But out of all of those countries that you've been to so far, what's your favorite country, excluding Australia?
Oh, that's a very good question, Michael. It depends on a number of factors. If I were to say the country that I would love to live in, it would be a Scandinavian country, perhaps Norway or Iceland, because the government is in good condition, is in good state, they take good care of their people, and the standard of living is very high. Also, Norway and Iceland specifically, I absolutely love the landscape, the mountains, the snow, the lakes, the fjords, the midnight sun, the northern lights. They're all amazing. They're all amazing factors as to why I love these countries. In terms of variety, I would say perhaps China. It has a lot to offer, many different provinces, many different dialects in the provinces. Therefore, it is quite different as you travel throughout the country. In terms of people, you might say some country like Colombia, where the people are very gregarious, very friendly, very open, or perhaps a country like Sri Lanka, where they're very kind and very welcoming, hospitable to foreigners. So it depends which way you would want to classify as what a favorite country might be. But I would say Norway and Iceland, to cut it short.
A very diplomatic answer there, I think.
Thank
Spreading
you
it all
very
over the
much.
world, yeah. But I've always wanted to get to Iceland. Actually, that's on my list. I'd love to see the hot springs.
The hot springs, yes, there's a couple of them. The most famous hot springs is called the Blue Lagoon, which is amazing, but it's also very expensive. So if you would like to go there just to say you've been there, it's all very good, but there's many other hot springs in Iceland which costs a lot less.
And you wouldn't see Brooke Shields at the Blue Lagoon, would you?
It might be a different Blue Lagoon that you're thinking of, but yes, you never know your luck. You never know your luck in the big city.
All right. Well, look, we could probably talk about travel all night. So let's move on to some of the heavy hitting questions like Steve Menzies in the 90s. How long would you say you've been using Instagram for?
I would say I've started Instagram maybe 4 years, maybe maximum 5 years ago, because I love photos. I like looking at them. I like posting them. And it seems to be the perfect fit. So 4, maybe 5 years in total.
You've had some spectacular photos on there as well. Yeah,
so thank you very much.
And it really is sad that what has happened to you has happened. But how many followers did you actually have on Instagram?
Oh, I would say 5,800 followers. Something like that. No more than 6,000.
With that many followers, are you an influencer or are you earning an income through your Instagram account?
Unfortunately, I'm not an influencer, and I'm actually not sure if I want to be. But no, I'm not an influencer, and I definitely don't earn any money from Instagram. It would be a nice thing to do, but unfortunately, fame and fortune hasn't found me through Instagram.
Fair enough. Yes, it's only for the Kardashians by the sounds of it.
Indeed.
So what do you normally post on Instagram?
I love posting a different photo every day. I tend to post something that would be completely opposite to what I post recently. For example, one day I would post a photo of mountain scenery. The second day I might post a person of a tribe in Myanmar. The third day I might post a picture of a shark that I filmed whilst I was diving in the Galapagos. And the fourth day I might post a picture of a hamburger. So personally, I like to keep it different, not just to engage the viewers and give them a different perspective, but to keep myself interested in how I post things and what I post. So it's a combination of different things, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of those photos look really professional as well. So in the description of the podcast, what we'll do is put your Instagram account into that. Your Instagram account was hacked, and I understand it was a bit of an elaborate scam. Can you tell me what happened when your account was hacked?
Okay, yes, indeed it was hacked a few days ago. It may be 4 or 5 days ago now. I was checking Instagram and I had received a random direct message from one of my followers.
So you've conversed with this person before, though?
Well, when I say conversed, she had made a couple of comments on some of my photos because she had been to these places. So I saw it just wasn't any random comment. So I wrote back to her and we just had a very brief interaction based on 1 or 2 photos. But I had never spoken to her. I certainly haven't met her. But from what I see from her account, I think she's a lady of maybe mid-50s in age. She's from Victoria. She had obviously visited Sydney before, therefore she made a few comments about my photos. But apart from that, I hadn't met her before, certainly not.
So there's nothing there. It wasn't like it was a completely random question coming from someone. It was someone that you've potentially built up a little bit of trust with in terms of, well, you kind of know a little bit about her based on her Instagram account. And it's been a long-standing thing. It wasn't something that it was a follow straight and then, directly questioning you about helping her out. It was something that has been built over a bit of time, yeah?
Definitely, that's absolutely right, Michael. Because I unfortunately I go on Instagram a lot, so I have a very very good idea of who the followers that follow me, who actually has the most interaction with my account. So she was perhaps one of them, and therefore, yes, perhaps I had more of a trust with her than a random person which had just followed me the day before.
Yeah. Okay. So this person messaged you like a direct message. What happened from there?
The direct message was very strange because, mind you, we only had this interaction commenting on photos. We never asked about anything personal about each other. And to receive a message from her was, well, let's say out of the blue. And it was a really provoking message. Basically, the message, from what I remember, said, really need your help. There was no reference to first names. There was no reference to anything else. So as what I feel that I'm a good person, as a good person, I thought perhaps I should help this person. And I continued the conversation. Yes, how can I help you? And the hacker who took this lady's place said he or she was trying to set up a second Instagram account and would need someone on Instagram to verify something via SMS in order for the account to be active. I personally haven't set up a second Instagram account, and I stupidly believed that this was what needed to be done.
So just getting back to that, you don't believe that this person was the person perpetrating it. It's quite possibly that her account was hacked and was used as a stepping stone to get into your account.
I would say that I'm 99% sure that it wasn't this person that sent me this message based on a couple of things. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags, but I didn't because of the speed of the conversation and I guess my feeling of needing to help someone.
Yeah, one of your followers who you've interacted with before.
Yes, indeed. But it's more of a case of just the way the words were phrased in our conversation. It didn't sound like it would come from a 55-year-old woman. Oh. There was a few swear words in there. The person was very pushy. It just didn't seem like a genuine request for help. I should have seen it, but I didn't, unfortunately.
When and where did this happen? So they sent you the message, and this is like on a, you're just at home responding to messages on your phone. Is that, you saw the beep come up on your phone? Is that what happened? And then you got this message, the person was pushy, and then what did they get you to do?
Yes, I was actually at home. I was helping my mum apply for something online, and after succeeding, I guess I was in a good mood, and I saw this person apparently needing help. So I thought, well, let's help this person out as well. So the conversation was, I would say, perhaps 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes in length in terms of back and forth. And they basically hooked me into this scam and took my details.
So what did they get you to do? What was the whole process? So they sent you the message. They they got you conversing with them, and then what did they do?
They wanted me to copy an SMS link that they had sent to me via the direct message on Instagram. They needed my telephone number, which I stupidly gave them because I thought it was part of the process. Once I gave them the number and once they knew that it was associated with my Instagram account, they sent me a link by SMS. What they told me to do was just to simply copy and paste the link once I received it by SMS and paste it into the DM that we were basically conversing. And once that happened, within 5 seconds, my Instagram just went blank. It just was basically erased. I obviously didn't quite understand what was going on. It only occurred to me a few minutes later that perhaps I was hacked or scammed or phished. And I desperately looked up on Instagram, on the internet for various solutions, but yeah, up until this point, I have been unable to recover my account.
The SMS that you received, there was something odd about that as well, wasn't it? I mean, we've done a little bit of research, you and I, into the text messages that came from outside of Australia.
It did indeed, yes. It came from a very random country code. So Australia's obviously +61, but this SMS came from a country code with 674. So it was +674. It should have struck me that was one of the red flags, which I didn't pick up during the conversation. And it was only later when I researched what 647 actually stood for. It was the country code of Nauru, which is it's a country, but it's under the protection of Australia.
Have you been to that country, by the way?
Nauru, no.
No.
If I wanted to complete all 197 countries, I would have to, but no, not yet.
So that was a bit of a red flag. And after looking at it as well, we kind of determined that was potentially a number that was owned and operated by, or at least operated by, Instagram, because a number of subsequent SMSs that were generated from a brand new Instagram account trying to set it up to your phone actually came from that phone number. So it just seems weird that they seem to have that control over the Instagram SMS service. So even if you did kind of pick that up, it might have been something that may have even just been kind of like a normal phone number from Instagram if we kind of dug into it a little bit further before you got hacked.
Yes, I would say that the vast majority of Instagram users wouldn't know much about what goes on behind the scenes at Instagram or Facebook or any other social media network or application. So to see something as random as a Nauru number send an SMS to my phone, it should have rung alarm bells. But on the other hand, it could very well be just the way Instagram works behind the scenes when they're trying to send verification codes or what have you to Instagram account holders. So it's odd. It's very strange what happened. I would assume that it was a more centralized number instead of coming from a phone number as random as a country in the Pacific Islands.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems kind of like an odd location for it to be generated from. But as we found out in our investigations, it's not unusual for that to happen. So even though it was a bit of a red flag in this situation, it may actually have just passed by as well, because it seems as though it is part of the regular Instagram processes. So once your account was hacked and you got that sinking feeling that like the 5 seconds went by and your account was gone and disappeared off the screen, how'd you feel? What went through your mind?
Well, to put it bluntly, it was horrible, because I guess you read in the news and the media and the internet of scams and hacks and what have you that happened to other people, and their whole livelihood was destroyed and financial situation, exemplified, and basically, perhaps at the worst case scenario, their life might have been ruined. So I couldn't believe it was happening to me. It was a feeling of shock to start with, and perhaps desperation afterwards to try to recuperate what I had done, or rather what someone else had done to me. So it wasn't a good feeling.
So after that sinking feeling, it was a case of you got onto Instagram's help and you tried going through the recovery process. So can you recount for me what process you had to go through to try and regain control of your account?
For a company as big as Instagram, I think one would have assumed or perhaps guessed that they would have a very large network of help or support for people that have had their accounts hacked or phished, like mine. However, it was very difficult to find information, and Instagram had provided links that you could click and be directed to see what you could do should something like that happen. So they had several links where you can click. And personally, I clicked the link that said, I think my account has been hacked. And they gave you a few options. From what I remember, they asked if my Instagram had a photo of me in it. So my profile picture was a picture of me in Machu Picchu in Peru with sunglasses on. And after clicking that option of yes, the next step was a video verification for about 30 seconds where a camera popped up and you had to look at various angles for the camera to capture your profile and to verify that you are indeed a real person and not a robot. So the 30 seconds had finished and the video was therefore submitted for clarification/verification from the Instagram staff. And I would say that after 5 minutes or perhaps 10 minutes or 20 minutes, because I had done this process 4 times for verification, and each time I was rejected, or rather they couldn't confirm that it was indeed me that was the owner of the account.
So they have this automated system to try and determine who you are by scanning your face, but this doesn't really help you because you've been, as you said, you put pictures of landscape, you put pictures of underwater, you have pictures of other people on there, you have pictures of food. So how would they be able to determine from a scan of your face whether that was you or not? They couldn't. So surely there's another way of, unlocking your account. Is there a support system that you can go to? Live chat, email? I mean, just other basic verification, like, you put your date of birth when you set up an Instagram account. What do they use that for if it's not for verifying your identity?
Indeed. I'm actually not sure myself. I literally spent several hours looking at every possible option to recover my account. And from what I can find on the internet, Instagram has no live chat. It's got no email support. It definitely hasn't got a phone number. And the only way to do it is by their verification process, as I mentioned before, which was the 30-second live video face scan verification, and or providing a verification code to the email address that you had originally set the Instagram account on. So obviously that was no help because that only led to the same questions, the same steps of face verification. Because the hacker had changed the email details and the phone number details, I was therefore unable to get any access to the Instagram account because they were completely different. And I, in essence, had lost complete control of my account to the hacker.
And there's no recourse for it at all, which is absolutely unbelievable. For a company big as Meta, the company that owns Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and a few other properties, it's just unbelievable that they don't have another system in place to help you recover something that was stolen from you. It just boggles the mind. A business that is so big as them, that they don't have a better system in place to help people who are wronged like this. Just shake my head.
It is mind blowing that something like that, as big as this company, doesn't have an adequate support system. It's shocking, really, but I guess most people wouldn't think about it when they sign up for something like Instagram or Facebook, because pretty much everyone has it. And I guess no one assumes that anything's going to go wrong.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? I think the assumption is that who would want to hack me? I've got really nothing of value on there. And surely hacks happen all the time. Surely they have a system in place that will help the people who've been wronged, but obviously not.
Well, they do have a system in place, but it only works for certain situations.
If you have a lot of selfies
for example, exactly. If you take a lot of selfies, if every photo on Instagram is of yourself, perhaps that might work, perhaps. But unfortunately, that's not everyone that uses Instagram.
Definitely not. Certainly not your case either. Did you have any other security measures set up on your Instagram account? So, you have a password, obviously, to log in. Did you have some other sort of multi-factor authentication as well, or was it just a username and password?
Up until 5 days ago, I only had my username and password because I'm quite adverse to technology. I'm not very good with it. And for me, the simpler the things are, the better they are. So I just left it at the most basic level, which was username and password. I didn't have a multi-factor security authentication.
In this case, it probably wouldn't have helped you anyway. So I assume that the hackers, the link that was sent to you, stole your cookie, and I'll do a bit of an explanation at the end of this about what that means. Did you use a password for Instagram that was used on any other website, or did you have those separated out?
My Instagram password was different to passwords which I have used for other websites. However, being a technological phobe, I tried to keep it simple. So whilst they were different, they weren't completely different, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so there was a certain formula to it then, I would say. So something simple
Exactly.
with a bit of
Exactly.
bit of formula to it, which I think is how a lot of people will generate their passwords as well. So I don't think you're alone there. I don't even think that would have actually saved you in this case either. It doesn't sound like it was a traditional password attack. This was something a little bit more sophisticated than that. Do you have any advice for anyone listening that thinks they don't need to worry about their Instagram account because it won't happen to them because they're not a target?
My advice would be vigilant with any interaction with other people. May they be followers, may they be even people you think you know that have been on your account for many, many years, because I certainly didn't feel that the person that was talking to me was a hacker, because this lady had been on my follower list for several years. So be vigilant, be extremely wary of interactions with other people where they ask for personal information, such as phone numbers, passwords, and take your time to analyze exactly why they're asking the information instead of just being a good Samaritan and helping them as quickly and as best you can.
And that's exactly what it is, isn't it? They're preying on the good Samaritan out there, which I'd like to think there's a lot of people out there who would blindly help like that as well. Like, we all want to help each other, and community on Instagram feels a little bit more tight knit than some of the other social sites that you have out there. But yeah, that's some really good advice there. I think is just to be very wary of others out there, because you don't know. I mean, you don't know, this person obviously has been associated with you for a little while on your account, but their account probably was compromised, as you said.
That's why I think it's very, very important to actually analyze the message itself and use some common sense as to why would someone be asking for this information, what type of language they might have been using. Does it sound like that person that you know or have been interacting with for several years? You need to be a little bit more analytical in terms of reading messages and not assuming that everything is okay, because sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way.
Good advice. After all that, is there anything else that you want to add?
I would like to say that probably the worst thing out of this whole experience was knowing that perhaps, or maybe very likely, that some of my followers would be suffering the same fate as me. If the hacker was going to use my account to message them and get their personal information, and as a result, hack their account and basically lock them out completely. I feel really bad about this because it makes me feel accountable. It makes me feel that I was the source of their predicament or their pain. And that's the thing that burns me out the most, because there's nothing I can do about it. I cannot warn every single one of my 5,800 followers that this had happened to me. And it's just something that's out of my control, I'm afraid. I feel horrible about this.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating considering the same thing is likely going to happen to some of your followers who you've probably conversed with. The hackers now have a full list of, or the full chat histories, and might be able to leverage your previous communications with these people to perpetrate exactly the same thing as what's happened to you, kind of like a stepping stone. They'll go from the account that was hacked in your friends list to you, to then the followers list from there. So what their end game is, who knows? But it is like that. It's like they're collecting Instagram accounts. I'm not sure what the end game is there. Maybe they're trying to get to some of the influencers and the people who have more people following them, or the more people that they're following, maybe a way to get to a payout somewhere along the line. It's the only thing I can think of.
Perhaps. Who knows what the end game might be?
It's like like 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's almost like, everyone's connected to everyone else. And if you get to the right person, you might be able to hack a big fish like a Kardashian or someone else who's on Instagram. There's a lot of people who know everyone else. So each account that they take over opens up, a whole brand new horizon.
That could be very well be the case. But as common people, unfortunately, we're not privy to their thoughts and methods. We can only just sit back and just hope that the situation doesn't get completely out of hand and the Instagram account holders get affected as much as mine was.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a horrible sinking feeling that you can't even warn them.
Exactly. That is perhaps the worst, that it is completely out of my control as to what I could do to warn them what might be coming.
Just one last question. What extent have you gone to in order for the hackers to not follow you around? So how are you assuring that the hackers are not going to follow you?
I was personally very affected by what happened to me a few days ago. I had lost some sleep because I couldn't find a solution, and as I mentioned before, Instagram wasn't going to help me at all with my dilemma. So I had to change my phone number for peace of mind, because I wasn't quite sure how much access the hacker had to my telephone / my system / financial records. So it was imperative for me to at least ease the stress in my mind that I had done everything that I could to avoid any further damage, so to speak. I also have changed my phone because I'm not sure if the link that I had copy and pasted, how much advancement in technology had actually occurred over the last few years, because obviously scams and hacks have progressed exponentially these last years, and they're getting very, very sophisticated.
Yeah, as we say on the podcast, attacks only get better, they never get worse. So it's always very good to have that approach. If you've been compromised, you can never truly trust that device again.
Exactly. So I didn't have much confidence in the old phone that I was using. So I had to basically reformat my mother's old telephone, which is the telephone I'm using now. And I also had to start up a new Instagram account with quite a lot of difficulty, and basically just to ensure that all the other apps that I had on my old phone were transferred over and they could be used going forward.
So just to recap that, so you've changed your phone number, you've changed phones, you've got a new email address, you have a new Instagram account, and you have a completely different profile picture on that Instagram account. Is that right?
Yes. I did everything that you mentioned, and it's just to basically start with a clean slate and just erase myself of any association I might have had with my old Instagram details / passwords / profile pictures / email addresses.
And that's a pretty important lesson as well, is that, to be able to sleep better at night, you can't have anything that is associated with that hack still in your possession, because as you said, like, who knows what else could have got onto that phone?
Yes, indeed. I'm still not 100% sure that everything's the way it was, but I can at least have a peace of mind that I've tried my best to rid myself of any connections with what happened a few days ago.
Sure. That's quite the story, and you've gone to huge lengths to prevent this from happening again. So it's a really good cautionary tale for our listeners so that they can be aware of such scams and to be more vigilant, I guess, about any unsolicited messages they may get on their Instagram account or even on any social media that you have, Twitter, Facebook, anything else that you use out there where anyone can message you and ask for help. So thank you again for your time tonight, Eugene. Really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing your story with the rest of us.
Absolutely, Michael. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast. And I do appreciate your help that you've given me the last few days, your advice and recommendations, what to do moving forward. Thank you so much for that.
Good one. I'm glad that I could help. From my experience, I would guess this attack was likely a flaw in Instagram that allowed the attacker to steal Eugene's session cookie. A cookie is a way for a website to maintain a session to your computer or device. If someone else has the cookie, they'll be able to access your account. This means an attacker could log onto your account without even knowing your login credentials, which is likely why they changed all of the account information straight away. This attack would have thwarted any multi-factor authentication because the cookie was already issued, as you were issued a cookie after you were logged in. That's it for today's episode. In the next episode, we'll be talking about the Essential 8 application control. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast using your favorite podcatcher and follow us on social media. Until next time, stay safe online.
Oh yeah, this is the Cyber Informer. Hackers, you going down like, oh yeah, this is the Cyber Informer. Hackers, you going down, yeah.